The Artist Looking for Purpose. Chapter 1. The Purpose of Life. The Standard Work Ethic vs. Your Free Soul. I'm going to take a holiday for as long as I need. Just to play? No, I want to find out why I'm working. The answer can't just be to pay bills or to pile up more money. I can't find out sitting behind some desk in an office. So, as soon as I get enough money together, I'm going to knock off for a while. Come back and work when I know what I'm working for. Does that make sense? Cary Grant to Katharine Hepburn in the 1938 movie Holiday. Being an artist doesn't make you broke. Giving up your dreams makes you broke. Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the things you did. So throw off the bowlines. Sail away from the safe harbor. Catch the trade winds in your sails. Explore. Dream. Discover. Mark Twain. It's not what you get monetarily for your work, it's what you become by it. If you make money, you sacrifice your time, but if you own your own time, you're usually financially poor unless you do something you love to do anyway that people will pay for. There's not one job in the workforce where you can live out the art of living freely. Some come close, like a rafting instructor, investigative journalist, documentary filmmaker, filming life as it happens as opposed to setting it up in a fictional movie which is tedious, or a motocross racer, while others leave you relatively free but get boring real fast, like a teacher, a dental lab tech, making dentures by hand, often at home, or an architect. Some are relatively interesting if that's your bag, like a recording engineer or software designer, but you're still on a routine, answering to a boss. Still others are deceptively tough, like most of the performing arts, which are extremely competitive, take endless rehearsals and direction from somebody else, usually the producer of the product, whatever it may be, and your job security is always at someone else's whim. My view of the work world is that nobody out there gives a damn about anyone else. It's all business. So my point is, don't go out there and try to reach some career highs for anything beyond money unless it's truly your passion. Don't waste your life on a career you don't really like just to reach some illusory milestone when everybody will forget about you 2 hours after you're gone. It's the big lie of the capitalist system. Tie your ego up into some dull job and play the game of ambition, competition, and status like all the other brainwashed clones, destroying your health, time, and well-being for some materialistic, capitalist illusion that you will never enjoy, because you're destroying your ability to enjoy life by losing your true self to your job/career. Despite all the pretense, most people hate their jobs and waste their lives working for a standard of living they don't really need, prisoners of materialism. If you don't like your work, find something you like that inspires you and makes you feel young. The world is abundant. There's enough need out there for practical things, frivolous novelty, and inspiration that I believe every free-thinking, intelligent person can come up with something original that they can earn their keep from whilst getting to do what they like. If you've got enough money to live a comfortable lifestyle modestly, your free time is way more valuable than wasting yourself on a dull job just for the money to live in a big house you don't need or drive a fancy car when a much cheaper one will do. So many people waste their lives keeping up appearances. Who do you think is enjoying life more, the Daniel Boone type living in a cabin somewhere, or the latest corporate big shot on the cover of Forbes magazine? They're both living out the only thing they really own, time. Even if your business is your passion, you still have to sacrifice some of yourself by dealing with all the trivial crap that goes with the fun, inspirational, creative part of it. The business mindset is, I care about you and you care about me only if we can do something for each other. Everybody's stuck on themselves, in their own heads, thinking about their own lives and only thinking about others if they can help them in some way. So vain efforts to make your mark and move up the career ladder through hard work beyond the money they pay you are useless, because the real battle of life is in your head, not what somebody else might say about you or your position at work. So many people destroy their lives because they want to make it to the illusory top to get position, status, fame, the big trophy, etc. But these things are all as temporary as the situation which creates them, because 2 hours later, All is forgotten as everybody goes back to living out their own fantasies in their own minds. Many men wear one of the most useless pieces of clothing around called a tie. It speaks volumes about your character that you choose to live with a noose around your neck, to give off the vibe that you're a good, little conformist clone. A tie has no practical function, only a symbolic function to mark you as a safe, dull, conformist member of the establishment. The underlying purpose, vision of aesthetic beauty. Life is a beautiful game. Leo in Hermann Hesse's Journey to the East. Where there is no vision, the people perish. I've come to believe that you know who you are quite early in life because your true essence is a simple, basic thing you're born with, but the world immediately comes in with its agenda all the way from TV to school to religion, so you lose your real self as you get brainwashed, somewhat like the message in Supertramp's Logical Song. When I was young, I felt that life was so wonderful, a miracle, so beautiful, all the birds in the trees, they were singing so joyfully, playfully watching me. Then they sent me away to teach me how to be logical, sensible, cynical, critical, intellectual. The goal is to find your version of freedom and transcendence, do whatever it takes to reach that inspired, euphoric state, hold on to it for as long as possible. Then when you feel yourself slipping away and going down, get peaceful and calm for a while and maybe walk over to the sensual, pleasurable side until the next round of inspiration hits. Transcendence is the magic of life. When you hit it via the fullest expression of your soul through the release of your natural inspiration, you know it, feel it, got it? You're on your game. When you come down from the high, nothing else matters much, you hit your groove, you're happy for the moment, so the game is to find what it takes to hit that transcendent groove and keep doing it forevermore. Everybody has within them, for at least one instant of time, a glimpse of themselves as they could be in their most perfect moment. This vision or feeling of yourself is your highest, purest soul, the archetype of your genetic seed. The pursuit of this archetype is you going along becoming better one day at a time because it's your passion for life unleashed, your fountain of youth and the solution to all your woes. Deep down inside, you know it, and if you're honorable, there's nothing you can do but try to live it as the restless spirits we are as human beings, constantly forging ahead to the next frontier no matter what. It never ends, a work in progress all the time. This private paradise in our minds, a utopian place where all is beautiful, easygoing, and perfect, is your highest vision of aesthetic beauty. It's mostly a fantasy because real life is considerably less intense and beautiful. Most of us rarely get the money we want to live such free lives, nor do we find the perfect soulmate who loves us perfectly no matter what. Live out your highest vision of aesthetic beauty even if most of it is a fantasy in your mind. Life is mostly a fantasy in your mind anyway. Artists often paint their visions of utopia. Fiction writers often write about them. When you can be honest with yourself and probe past the cultural brainwash, you will find your visions of beauty to be this deep primordial thing in your soul. The first 15 years of your life will leave an imprint on you that will stay with you forever as the sentimentality of your culture during your formative years, so your soul will be manifested through those experiences. Something about our early years bonds with us, gives us a warm fuzzy feeling that we can never shake, and we keep trying to get back there just like Citizen Kane kept trying to get back to the brief security of Rosebud. Your highest vision of aesthetic beauty should be your life force and your inspiration. In order to be happy, you must try to live it in real life, in spirit by your actions, in the creative expression of it, and in fantasy form in your mind. Keep that serious, unemotional face when you're out there in public as you're supposed to do, doing your job or just being around people in general, acting like you're a responsible, mainstream, conservative, dull citizen, but deep in your soul, hold on to that haven of hazy, surrealistic, easy, perfect beauty, because that's really where it's at. It's kinda like the final scene in the movie of Mice and Men based on the novel, where Robert Blake tells his buddy to imagine the most beautiful, peaceful scene he can before he blows him away to avoid lynching by the approaching posse. You gotta live it in your mind regardless of where you are or what you do. Never let it get away. It's a permanent part of you that will always be there somewhere inside regardless of how far you stray and how old you get. Life is just consciousness, whether you're 20, 40, 50, or 80 years old, 100 pounds, 200 pounds, 300 pounds or 800 pounds, rich, middle class or homeless. Your soul never changes, but the world can cover it up so that it's barely flickering. So the goal of life is simple: hold onto to your vital, youthful soul till death do you part. Your good, old days and the best days of your life are right now. I know only too well how transient life is, that I will eventually age, and how I could easily slip away if I were to give in to the soppy pop culture entertainment, couch potato, drab forces of the world and lose my soul bit by bit. The transcendent zone is a deep connection to the soul where you make your highest vision of aesthetic beauty real, but it only lasts for a short time because you always have to take action to regenerate the happiness, otherwise you lose it. Everybody's idea of perfect beauty is peace, freedom, love, vitality, and going back home to the simplicity and innocence of youth. So that's where I live, in the haze of those lazy, crazy days of summer at the lake so long ago when I was young, innocent, and free. Life was simpler and I lived for the pure, easygoing enjoyment of time. This pursuit of soul as a lifestyle is something like the easy breezy cool groove you get into when you hear your favorite song, but this is just a temporary shot of easy breezy coolness. The real trick is to culture a soul that lives like this all the time by expending your natural inspiration physically and creatively, listening to good music, having great love, passionate sex, pursuing sensual pleasures, feeding your mind with new ideas and relaxing well via seeking out inspiration. Stay pure and free enough to try to live this lifestyle without letting the world get to you. When I get old and my body withers, my soul won't change. I will still be stuck on the vision of my carefree days at the lake even when I'm ready to kick off. When you know your vision of beauty, it's over, that's it, all that matters for now and evermore, regardless of how distracted you get by life in the real world. As an old man, I will probably go for walks in the park but won't be as vital as I am now, and it will kill me inside that I will have lost myself, but that's the process of life, to lose your spark as you fade away during your twilight years, which is why aging is so tough. But that's just a side point to my main argument, although I'm trying to show you this flowing approach to life as a spiritual essence that lives in the soul. The intermediate purpose, inspired action from the soul. Can I dig a little deeper to pull out something I never knew I had before? Give it everything you get. Never give up on your dreams. Rick Hansen, wheelchair athlete who went around the world in his wheelchair. What you are is a gift of life. What you do with yourself is your gift to life. Life. Every morning a new beginning. Welcome and entertain them all. Be grateful for everything. Even sorrow, because at least you're alive. To live another day. Inspiration is the extent to which I feel naturally motivated to use myself up all the time versus the alternative, which is generally loss of self, the opposite of inspiration, the absence of any real spark in life, either doing nothing much of anything or doing useless, trivial things, what I call illusions from the world system. Inspiration is like sex of the soul for me, because some of my soulful pursuits are intense physical activities which send me into short, brief zones of extreme euphoria where I soar on high for a while, and this fuels my well-being for the rest of the day, such that I'm generally more creative, relaxed and inspired than if I had just been sitting around not doing much. The purpose of life is to find your soul such that it becomes your base, which gives you the stability through which you can weather anything, be it good or bad, and from there, in order to stay strong, happy, and peaceful, you must seek to honor it on a regular basis by taking inspired action via what comes from it and reflect on it constantly to stay centered within yourself. Inspired action is fun with life, generally creative, physical and sensual activities that challenge, deplete, energize and replenish you all at the same time. It's simply living a great life, doing what you want in your free thoughts followed up with action. Freedom to me is to feel relaxed all the minutes of the day, doing exactly what I want, riding my life as I see fit. My only limits are my inspired potential and the need for enough money to cover my bills. Inspired action from the soul is the only true elixir to living a full life, and the trick is to channel this natural storehouse of inspiration to do something that will fill a need, help or inspire somebody, thus earning your keep in the process. Your life is the sum of all of your experiences up until now, which are all useless unless you can use them to stay inspired about your life. Life starts right now, every current second you're breathing air. The past is absolutely totally meaningless except for what you can suck out of it to help you stay inspired. The best you can ever do is keep moving with inspired action from the soul to keep that vision of endless summer as alive as you can, even when Father Time starts gunning for you, 'cause it's all you ever really got, either a feeling of inspired potential at any instant of time or a feeling of generic mundanity. There was some guy who used to be a big-time hockey star about 10 years ago or so who was coming to town to sign autographs and stuff. Some of my acquaintances were excited about going down to see him, maybe to touch the great one's cloak and something would rub off on them, or so they thought. I thought to myself, who cares? It doesn't matter what he did in the past. Who is he right now, today? When I saw him on TV, I thought he let himself go. He was just some overweight guy. Why does our society have to create these pop culture heroes for us, and why do people have to fall for it? Live your own life. Don't buy into somebody else's crap about what being cool and happy is all about. In the end, you will be dead. The only thing that will have mattered is to look back on your deathbed and either know you've lived the life you imagined for yourself, or were just another brainwashed clone who limped along in a limited life as a cog in the system. True freedom is to get beyond the life you've been conditioned by to live for yourself, your own purity, your own standards, to realize that life is truly a short ride of time, and the more you live in your own space influenced by nothing, the freer you will be. The ultimate purpose of life is to make it through unscathed with your youthful, innocent spark intact. The deeper purpose, a life of purpose. If you couldn't fail, what would you do? If you're alive, your mission on earth is not finished. To live decently, to have a reason for self-respect. Olga in Theodore Zeldin's An Intimate History of Humanity, 1994. The deeper purpose of life is to grow spiritually and help others do so. Make a statement with your life. I want to be totally used up when I die, because the harder I work doing what I love, the more I live. George Bernard Shaw. Dare to become who you are. Friedrich Nietzsche. You are here in order to enable the world to live more amply, with greater vision, with a finer spirit of hope and achievement. You are here to enrich the world, and you impoverish yourself if you forget the errand. Woodrow Wilson. Does my life have enough meaning to be worth living beyond just enjoying potato chips, watching TV, coloring my hair and buying stuff at the mall? That's the only real question. Everything else is either meaningless or minor distraction next to this. The purpose of life is a life of purpose. A life of purpose is to be who you really are, but the problem starts when you have to make a living, so you have to figure out a way to earn your keep by being who you are, and the way to do this is to share what's really important to you with the world somehow, thereby showing that you give a damn about being a positive force in some way. Do something that matters to you and use it to touch people and help them. I heard some old guy on TV define the purpose of life in 2 questions. It's not about what you acquired but what you contributed to others. What did you do? What are you doing now? How much of your potential did you use up? An enlightened person is an intermediary who opens up the world for others. Go where you are needed. Feeling that you can do something worthy and are needed by somebody in society should be the saving grace that keeps humanity from going completely over to the cynical, selfish side. You have to find what's real in you and get it out somehow to pass it on in order to feel good about your life. That's what matters. Any clone can drive a Jag and wear Nike, Gap, Louis Vuitton, etc. It immediately gives you away, speaking volumes about your character. It doesn't make you look cool, it makes you look like an arrogant, brainwashed jerk full of yourself. If you really want to be cool, help somebody selflessly. In some primordial way, I want to continue the chain my father started when he created me, to create one little bit of unique worth for humanity to give me worth. It's about as good as it gets to fill the whole of the human soul. As loners by design, we can be quite happy alone in our heads, but sometimes getting out of your own skin to feel what others feel, sense their pain and help them is a great thing for you to give you some inspired energy about your life, a sense that you're needed, that what you do will truly help people live better lives. I saw that movie about Charles Dickens about how he got the inspiration to write A Christmas Carol. While taking a walk through London worrying about his own problems, he saw some child factory workers being bullied by their boss. His own father was in debtor's prison. He fought poverty all his life, even after he himself became rich. At any moment in time, you can measure your worth by asking yourself if you're producing something positive with your life. It doesn't matter what it is, the goal is to feel like you're in positive motion one way or another. Inspired action is the solution to all of life, like the line from Kipling's great poem, "Fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run," which tells us to keep moving no matter what. If you win, lose, have the greatest victory, the biggest defeat, or go to the biggest party, the next day it's just you and your only choice is to mope or take inspired action via what comes from the soul. The past is a goodbye. Run away from all negativity as soon as it happens. Grab the inspired self and keep it close till death do you part. Regardless of what you come across in the world, your soul is ultimately your only sanctuary. The only way you're gonna get through this life relatively unscathed is to just keep moving on with your inspiration no matter what happens, even if all your family and friends die, there's a great disaster and anything else. Take a lesson from Viktor Frankl, who lived through a worse hell than you ever will in a Nazi concentration camp where just about all of his family was killed, which he wrote about in Man's Search for Meaning. Have your little cry, analyze it, purge it from your soul, then get back on it with your inspired life force. Chapter 2. Live as an artist of your life. The final purpose, spiritual flow. Whenever in doubt, turn off your mind, relax, float downstream. Spiritual flow is soul, intuition, gut feeling, sixth sense, hunch, whatever you want to call it. It's living by soul, doing everything by feel, feeling what you have to do, what you should eat, how much sleep you should get, analyzing people very quickly with one look and responding quickly to any situation. It's simply your instantaneous feeling about anything in any situation based on what you feel in your soul. It applies to judgments of people or the feel of any situation. We all instantaneously judge people in our minds immediately upon seeing them. Beyond that, it often applies to danger. We can often sense danger immediately based on past dangerous experiences and instinct. Your mind is quickly evaluating the situation and sending signals to your body, usually a quick shot of adrenaline, a quick message to move, then action. Spiritual flow is based on the collection of all the experiences in your life now sitting in your mind at both a conscious and subconscious level, plus the innate gut wisdom you were born with. It enables us to quickly evaluate events and situations. It's instinct, the power of the mind to sense what's going on around you. Trust it? For me, it's always right. I never doubt it. I judge people by spiritual flow. Whenever I see someone for the first time, I look into their face to get a read of the aesthetic appreciation in their lives, i.e., are they really happy? Then I look at their bodies to see if they respect themselves enough to have healthy to vital bodies. Next I look for arrogance and phony signs of coolness which tell me you're not strong enough to stand on your own. Do you wear status symbols from the world and trendy clothes, or do you present yourself as is, the way your God created you? Your face, body, and clothing are your biography. It's all there. Nobody can really hide their true selves much despite what airs they put on, how many letters they have after their names, or how much money they have in the bank. The human mind is capable of very quick, very complex evaluations based on whatever information it receives. It's a highly logical thing to trust your inner flow because it's based on quick, intelligent thought which gives you an immediate sense about something. Try hashtag 155-159 and number 613 at the library for books about intuition. Here's a dose of spiritual flow from Rudyard Kipling, an enlightened kindred spirit who captured the essence of life in his poem, epub, which he wrote to his son, which won the Nobel Prize in 1907. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make your dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet triumph and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings, and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can walk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you will be a man, my son. Life flow. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature. Helen Keller, The Open Door, 1957. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their entrances and exits. Each man in his time plays many parts. Shakespeare. Life flow is basically ESP, extrasensory perception. You feel something for some unknown, mystical reason. Oftentimes, you don't know why, but you simply trust it and it's usually right. This is what Carlos Castaneda's of the Teachings of Don Juan books wanted to learn from the shaman Don Juan, who said that this ability to see is not a concrete ability like mathematics or driving a car. It's intuitive, you feel it inside, it's a knowing, a feeling of vibes around you. I hold my dreams and daydreams sacred because they're the pure me. They tell me what's really going on inside of me without me censoring myself. Sometimes in conscious reality I feel vibes, the vibes of life around me, the vibes of the community as a whole, the vibes of a group of people, the vibes of individuals. I sense the auras of people. I can sense when there's tension, bad energy, good energy, peace, love, collective fatigue, collective joy, power, etc. It's something you feel automatically if you've got this life flow going through you. You have to first feel connected to your soul, then open yourself up to the energy flow around you, and you can generally sense what's really going on beyond verbal cues or the artificial distinctions of status, power, fame, popularity, etc. You feel like you're connected to the life flow of the universe. You can generally read people's souls very quickly. Despite outer appearances, the light, or lack of it, in a person's soul doesn't lie. It's written all over people. It's clear as day. You just have to see it. Vitality and goodness equals a strong light in the soul. Fatigue, hate, anger, evil, envy and negativity signal someone detached from their souls, hence, a weak aura. There is the healing, empowering energy of a strong soul and the draining, negative effect of the weak soul. If you want to live a truly enlightened lifestyle, think of your soul as eternal light, God's light, part of the universal life force. Live to be strong within yourself and use that strength to help people reveal the light in their souls, so that through the process, you'll strengthen your own soul. This will keep your soul vital, and when you do it often enough, you'll get very strong and enlightened. The Buddhists say you continue to reincarnate until your soul achieves its purpose. When you hit that point, you become an angel, all soul, and merge back to unite with the Creator God from whence you came to live in spiritual perfection forevermore. This way of thinking is a great way to live. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. It beats anything else I've ever come across to keep you feeling transcendent and pure. The purpose of life is to find the wisdom within yourself that your God placed there and live it out. This is about as good as it gets as far as I know. Forget about everything else in life and seek out enlightenment to see where it takes you. Then after you've found your own personal truth, you have your path, the rest is just a matter of living it out, staying inspired, youthfully vital and sharing it with other people. Whenever you live by anything less than true wisdom, your life is not fulfilled, it leaves something to be desired. If you want true wisdom and happiness in life, simply get calm, peaceful and loving, have a general idea of your direction and go with purpose to see where it'll take you. Don't carry negative baggage. Simply let all hardships roll away off your back and keep moving on, staying strong in your soul. Don't impose upon other people nor hold them responsible for your happiness. A true artist just keeps moving on quietly with his soul's work, letting everything else roll off his back. You learn from the negative things, but you don't let them influence your life in any way whatsoever. Do your soul's work quietly. Offer it humbly. If people want it, they'll take it. If not, that's fine too. You can only be true to yourself and not seek to impose your will on others. Focus on yourself doing your life's work lovingly. All the negative things that happen in your life are a part of your journey to find your true soul. Use them as learning experiences. Find friends and allies along the way to help you with your quest just as you help them with their quests. Have as little fear of life as you can muster. There will be fear, but if you feel intuitively right about what you're doing, don't hesitate, do it. Do what you feel inside. Trust your soul, oblivious to external reward. Just think of fulfilling the work that was put into your soul when your God created you. This will fulfill your contract with the universal life force. Above all else, feel easy and light about life. You can only truly get this way by knowing your soul, conquering it and continuing to do so, thereby renewing yourself day after day. Only this can give you that elusive light, happy, youthful feeling with a spring in your step that we all crave so mightily yet very few have. Think of yourself dancing freely to your favorite song in a field on a beautiful sunny day with your soulmate and no one else around to make you feel self-conscious. This is how to dance through life in harmony with your soul, which puts you in harmony with the God Creator universal life force. Competition breeds animosity, egotism, and the illusory desire to be better than someone else for the stupid capitalist need for a temporary shot of superiority in some aspect of life, which is the heart of capitalism, the I'm better than you phenomena. There's no such thing as friendly competition if you're keeping score. Just be yourself, seek out your own truth and try to help others be the best they can be rather than compete against them. There's really no such thing as a midlife crisis. You should be a seeker seeking life all the time, but it's a fact that you'll reach a point where you'll know you're on the back end, that you've lived over half of your life, that you ain't getting any younger, and you might panic, especially if you've been living a dudley life, and get serious, looking for some kind of spiritual and personal meaning, then do all kinds of wacky things to try to stay young or be like some chubby middle-aged babe I met. She said she was getting her groove back by doing drugs and having a good old time in some nightclub in Jamaica where she was for her vacation from her job somewhere, but she didn't realize vacations to exotic places won't help you get your groove back unless you work on your soul first. Life is simply the process of constant renewal through soulful pursuits. Freud was right about repression leading to anxiety caused by losing your real self. In our capitalist society, work, religion, and conformity force most of us to repress ourselves, thereby losing or never accessing our true selves, our ID as Freud called it, which is just another word for your true real self, your haven which contains your beautiful dreams, visions, soul and all your sexual and hedonistic desires. If you keep all this stuff hidden away from the surface for 20 years or so as you focus on being an upstanding career person or otherwise politically and religiously correct, you'll eventually lose yourself, get stressed, anxious, develop health problems and may explode into a nervous breakdown or say screw it all and go hedonist bohemian free spirit like some you see around who were once priests, cops, or bankers and now live totally free lives, indulging whatever passion they happen to feel at the moment to the best of their ability. Examine yourself to see how far your ego self, the way you are in society, is away from your ID self, the fantasies, dreams, and visions that reside inside of you. The further away you are, the more lost, anxious and stressed out you are. Life, one big fluid commodity. What matter it that all around danger, grief, and darkness lie, if but within our bosoms bound, we hold a bright unsullied sky. Emily Bronte. Contrary to the entire breadth of voluminous works of psychobabble out there, life is not a matter of steps, stages, passages, highly effective habits, self-defining moments, lightbulb moments, rules, or life strategies to get you somewhere, make you a benevolent soul or make you more successful, because enlightened people don't live by a list of things they ought to do. They live by knowing their souls and having the sense to do whatever it takes to stay close to them. They don't live by the plodding rules given to us by the massive convoluted machine of the system out there. There are no real stage theories or passages of life like Erik Erikson and Gail Sheehy claimed, subdividing life into 8 or so stages when the truth should be evident to enlightened minds, that you are your soul, which is your consciousness and essence, regardless of whether you're 8 seconds old, 8 or 88. The book Seasons of Life by John Kotra and Elizabeth Hall, number 155 or BF 713 at the library, from the subfield called Developmental Psychology, represents the views of hundreds of those people they call social scientists who are supposedly trying to map out a theory of life based on stages across the lifespan, but it's all phony, manufactured knowledge presenting the package deal of life as defined by capitalism, yielding very little or nothing useful to understanding your own life, because they don't understand that you're one essence, your soul, which will always be the same from the time you have consciousness until you die. The purpose of life is to thrive by manifesting your soul's inspiration throughout your life, not anything else, regardless of age or circumstance. The only true battle of life is to find your soul, what exists in the deepest recesses of your soul/essence, and live it out forevermore, not abide by this capitalist view, packaged life stages pablum we've been fed since I can remember, i.e., school, career, marriage, mortgage, life insurance, kids, pop culture pablum, midlife crisis, ulcer, heart attack, retirement, golf, death. If you live by your soul, there aren't really many changes in life. If you're a lost soul or a distracted soul, you're all over the place, you have no base, you're always going through changes because you're so messed up. You live your life, something happens like death, accident, serious misfortune, or something greatly positive. If you're enlightened, you accept it all calmly and go on living your life just like always. If you're a wimp, you let it destroy you for a while and maybe even lose yourself even more than you are now, so you grasp for more straws looking for solutions, but you always have that gnawing, empty negative feeling inside. On the other side, if you're a lost soul and something happens like you win the lottery or meet someone who really, really likes you, you'll get all giddy and happy for a moment, but it won't sustain you. This feeling from something outside of yourself will go, then you'll be left alone by yourself again, and you will either be enlightened and do something to inspire yourself every day, day by day, or go back to your mundane self and live a generic life like you're used to anyway. There's only enlightenment and lost soul. Middle ground or doing all right, don't cut it because you're still lost, not tuned into your soul. Crises are just way stations to help you reveal your true self. If you're a lost soul being a seeker looking for answers, that's great. Don't give up until you find enlightenment. When you find it and get strong via soulful pursuits and constant inspiration, you'll have it, that elusive inner feeling of greatness, nothing more, nothing less. Your religion, culture, TV, community, etc. are all just mild inspiration or imposters next to the real you. Next to giving you a bit of positive energy, they shouldn't affect the real you one single bit. All the challenges, dragons and conflicts you read about in any mythical story are really about the individual confronting himself to find out what his true soul is all about. The enlightened soul meets all kinds of adversity, is slain to pieces by the ugliness, hardship, and evil of the world, feels intense pain and desolation and dies metaphorically. Only then, like the slain phoenix rising from the ashes, does he or she find true wisdom and enlightenment. But the point is, you can't let the fear and adversity of the unknown outside world nor the fear of your inner self get you down. You keep fighting and moving towards what you're looking for, something within yourself that's the real you that you can believe in. Then once you find it, you've found your soul, something very few people ever truly find, even though it's a much bandied term in literary and poetic circles these days. Once you figure out the real game is soul and inspiration as acquired through real experiences in the world, you're enlightened, as close to happy as you'll ever be. So the game is quite simply to stay there for the rest of your life without losing yourself to the mundanity of time. There's no universal simple formula like all those superficial goal-setting self-help type books out there preach, except that you have to know what it takes to keep you inspired and euphoric about your life day by day and live by it. Regenerate your soul all the time. I took my journey, went out into the world, saw everything I wanted to see and came back to myself. I don't need to travel anymore. My life has been reduced to the connection to my soul and how to keep it inspired while satisfying my hedonistic pursuits along the way. Everything else is just minor amusement or pollution next to this. I'd rather stay in one spot and do inspiring and hedonistic things rather than travel around the world looking for something that only exists within me, the sanctity in my soul. This book might give you the general idea, but you have to live it yourself. You have to take your own journey and find enlightenment for yourself, what fits for you on your own terms, not what your daddy told you to do, not the straight and narrow path the church mapped out for you, not that phony crap you saw on MTV or what some phony psychobabbalists said. Use your culture and anything else out there for inspiration and ideas to help you find yourself. Seek out romance and friendship for comfort, but don't listen to too much of what's out there. Find your true self, build on it and pursue your destiny. Find true love with a soulmate if you want, but don't waste your time on half-assed relationships with lukewarm loves unless that's what you want for a mild distraction, because if you want true love, you should give it your all just like you expect your partner to, without toying with each other's emotions. Just like life is either all soul or nothing at all, so too is romance either all love or nothing at all. You'll never find fulfillment through other people or romantic relationships unless you're already fulfilled within yourself. So if you're a lost soul, don't look to others to fill you up. Try to avoid all that crap out there about sex role stereotypes that attempt to mold you into a rigid set mode of behaviors. Just be yourself. Express both your masculine and feminine traits without self-consciousness or shame, whatever they may be. You're allowed to be yourself without bowing down to these rigid sets of rules that we've all been brainwashed by. Women are allowed to be independent and assertive without feeling self-conscious. Men are allowed to be soft and gentle without feeling self-conscious about it, but most of us still are. Think of yourself as the little boy or girl you were a long time ago and try to go back to that pure soul you had back then. Be like that in spirit, but a bit wiser, tempered by your experiences in the real world. Try to stay gentle and innocent within. Don't let the outside world harden you, change you, or make you a bitter, pathetic lost soul. Life is a dance every single day. There's really no such thing as security. Something can always happen to wipe you out, be it tragedy, health problem, death of people close to you, stock market crash, accident, fire, theft, etc. Save for your future but live a full life in the present. Work in the capitalist corporate sense is the biggest lie, because everybody's expendable. They just use you for labor in exchange for money. Then when they're all done with you, they throw you away and forget about you. So if you tie your ego up into that, you'll have no base within to fall back on when it's over. Many people sacrifice themselves for their careers, then feel empty when they're over because whatever they did in their job was not inherent to the real them in their souls. So in essence, beyond the money they got out of it, they were essentially wasting their lives doing something that wasn't inherent to them. In the end, you'll eventually age, but so what? It's just part of the life cycle. You'll slow down a little bit, but if you focus on staying close to your soul, keeping your youthful spark and inspiration strong, striving for sexual vitality and your particular brand of hedonism, you can stay pretty close to all of it till you make that final exit and go off to meet your maker. Chapter 3. Why Creative People Are Extreme. Starry Night. As soon as you trust yourself, you will know how to live. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Whatever else you do, don't waste even a rock. It's your own time, it's your own life that you're spending. Make it a goal to waste it on something you really enjoy, not something you're merely hung up on doing or something someone brainwashed or guilt-tripped you into believing you have a duty to do. Claire Wolfe, The Freedom Outlaw's Handbook, clairewolfe.com. Freedom is scary. That's why most people would rather live in a comfortable, little box. Don't compromise yourself, you are all you have. Janis Joplin. Let him that would move the world first move himself. Socrates. Life on planet Earth is just a series of random moments all strung together. If you want to win at it, live for what makes you feel good and disregard the rest. Bohemian Bob. We become what we think about. Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. Big Brother is a term that refers to the various establishment institutions out there like the government, the church, the mainstream media, the entertainment industry, the corporate structure, the formal education system, etc. Whether we realize it or not, whether by design or not, all these forces together exert a manipulative force on us, sometimes subtle, sometimes direct, that makes many of us neurotic because they're constantly brainwashing us with two conflicting viewpoints at the same time. 1. The competitive, go get 'em, ambitious, be a winner, be cool, trendy, successful, high status, elitist, capitalist, consumerist ideology. 2. The Christian New Age, we are the world, love humanity, serve your fellow man, cooperate with each other, be humble, be thankful, forgive and forget ideology. These mixed messages constantly coming at us in roughly equal proportions have the effect of separating us from our true natures, at least brainwashing the weak people who don't realize this is what's going on. The net result of this indoctrination is that many of us who don't know our souls or live by them become an inconsistent basket case of contradictions and anxieties in trying to conform to all these demands the world surreptitiously places on us. Live by the essence that God endowed you with, unpolluted by the delusions and illusions of the world. You have nothing to prove to anyone, only to answer to your own standard every day when you wake up. Truly wise people can only get wise by contemplating their own lives and coming to their own insights. I am telling you the way, but you have to take that journey to discover your true nature yourself, then have the guts to live it out in the face of all the clones around you parroting the crap they see on TV, wanting you to be like them. While I think religion is generally a good force to control the masses, keep them law-abiding and give them comfort and hope when they're down, it also has the effect of closing minds down by imposing rigorous codes of conduct on them. You might feel sacrilegious for going against the religion of your youth, as both James Joyce, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, and I have done in questioning our Catholic roots, but it's the only way to free yourself, to let go of everything except for what resides in the pure primal divine mix that is you. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. James 4:14. Life for the enlightened is to enjoy the dance day after day. There's no paradigm about winning versus losing or success versus failure with me. If I give worthy effort to expend my natural inspired energy right now, I've served my purpose for the day regardless of outcome. The process of releasing this energy is my joy and my fountain of youth. That's the prize. The fact that I stay spiritually, physically, and medically younger than others my chronological age by releasing intense amounts of inspired sensual loving mystical energy to stay true to my nature. I don't get it when people pray to God to win a gold medal in a swim meet, to be successful in business by getting more market share than the competition, or to win a war against another country, because if you were truly godlike, you would throw away your competitive motives and instead try to cooperate with your fellow man rather than trying to beat him to stand on some transient pedestal of superiority for a minute or two to satisfy your cheap, lost, one-dimensional ego, which is the crux of the capitalist ideology. I believe in using the natural power in my soul to release whatever inspired energy lives inside of me to either help, entertain, or inspire people to earn me my cash, but beyond that, I have no interest in the capitalist games of wealth, popularity, fame, and status people play. I live according to my own standard, pure and free. I compete with no one but myself. The only rule is that you don't infringe on the lives of people who don't want to be involved with you, but whatever consenting adults do together is fine. The total losers are the people who don't make an effort to release any energy at all, neither the natural potential inspired energy in their souls nor the mundane energy to try to earn a living or attain the system's version of success like most of the population does, so they have no identity beyond the pop culture crap they fill their minds up with. This quickly leads to self-loathing. All we really own is time. Nobody is above humanity with respect to health, aging, death, nor does anyone automatically get a free pass to the only few elixirs of life. Youthful spark. A sense of inspiration. Self-respect/personal dignity. Peace of mind. Love and respect with a few people and pets. These are the great equalizers. Everybody gets old and withers away despite what pretensions they live by regarding material wealth, coolness, fame, and status in the world. Material wealth can enhance the quality of life, but only to the point where your needs and some cheap thrill desires are met. The fulfillment of your deepest needs and desires can only come from the soul. If you're living at a comfortable lower middle class level, all the gadgets and thrills you can buy are enough. The toys and stuff wealthier people buy is all just external dressing. It will not enhance your life all that much. All the money, status, and fame in the world will not give you the few elixirs of transcendence, inspiration, youthful spark, self-respect, peace of mind and love. You can't buy them. You have to create them and earn them all the time. The greatest politician is a has-been once he's out of office. His identity as a power broker is gone just like that. It was not an inherent part of his soul, so it can't help him now. He lives alone in his head like you. He can't rely on love taps of admiration from his adoring public or his subordinate yes men anymore. He's either got a connection to his soul or he's just another lost, generic soul. It doesn't matter what his position out in the world is or was. What is the essence of beauty and madness? I get an image of Van Gogh, in his multicolored, psychedelic mind, high on wine and probably opium on some night in his short life, frantically trying to capture this grandiose feeling he had of the magnificence of the cosmos in the moment, painting Starry Night, which is the way I try to live, in that inspired sensual type headspace as far away from the so-called real world as possible. It's like Thomas Paine said, give me liberty or give me death. You don't want to do it halfway. Van Gogh and Gauguin, manic depressive or just living hard. An artist's life is one long martyrdom. Paul Gauguin. I am savage in spite of myself. Paul Gauguin, in Tahiti, 1896. The age of 30 is, for the working man, just the beginning of a period of some stability, and as such, one feels young and full of energy. But, at the same time, a period of life has passed, which makes one melancholy, thinking some things will never come back. And it is no silly sentimentalism to feel a certain regret. Well, many things really begin at the age of 30, and certainly all is not over then. But one doesn't expect from life what one has already learned it cannot give, but rather one begins to see more and more clearly that life is only a kind of sowing time, and the harvest is not here. Van Gogh, letter to his brother Theo, February 8, 1883. The movie Lust for Life with Kirk Douglas playing the role of Vincent van Gogh showcases his evolution to become himself fully regardless of anything else in the world. Rejected by the church in his attempts to be a missionary because he associated with the poor natives too much without the dignity they thought a member of the clergy should have, he couldn't work a regular job because, as he said, his ideas were different from the people who handed out jobs. He lived out the rest of his life as an exploration of his inner whims, a sin according to the puritanical, Victorian dogma of the day because he acknowledged his supposed dark side and explored it. He painted a picture of a guy working in a field in the splendor of the midday sun and said this is how he wanted to go when he died, with his soul as full as it could be, shining with the brightness of the noonday sun. His death at 37 in 1890 was part suicide, part madness, a typical end for many extremist creative types who can't seem to function in the so-called real world, so when they don't reach their vision of beauty or make money through their creative efforts, they get discouraged, lose their spark, and since that's all that matters, it becomes very difficult to live a plain existence like the people around them. Van Gogh was an epileptic, alcoholic, smoker and intense artist, which generally means a life of extreme highs and lows as he set out to get beyond conventional reality to capture bits of transcendence here and there. It's good to be this original, but for some, it leads to feelings of loneliness and alienation from the world since they feel they're so different from just about everybody else on the planet. Van Gogh got away from realism into the fantasy elements of surrealism through his paintings, like his friend Paul Gauguin, who was also into the fantasy elements of painting more so than realism. The two lived together in southern France for a while, focusing on their painting, but couldn't live in peace together, so Gauguin left, took a 69-day boat trip to Tahiti where he had a blast for a while, found a patron who was willing to give him a steady income of 300 francs a month for his paintings, fathered at least 4 children cavorting with the native girls, but caught syphilis, which led to a painful death at a young age. Paul Gauguin started out following the typical brainwashed path, then suddenly got enlightened at some point in life. Born in 1848, he did a 6-year stint in the merchant marine at 17, then entered the stock market, was unhappy with a wife and 5 kids, so he went off traveling and painting at the age of 30 or so. Disgusted with the politics of the European art scene, he took a ship to Tahiti, which was a slow, tedious process back then, but it shows he had the guts to go out looking for new horizons, even though I feel he was morally wrong in starting a family and not following through with it, but that's his business, not mine to judge. He said, "From now on, I will paint every day, not being influenced by our civilization. I only desire to create a simple art." He referred to Tahitian women, like Eve, still able to walk naked without indecency, preserving all her animal beauty. He called his bronze self-portrait of 1896 Savage, Ouvert in French, and the book he wrote with Charles Morris describes an untamed, free, passionate life. He said, "I am a savage in spite of myself," meaning he couldn't help being his true primal self, unfettered and unrepressed. His other book was Gauguin's Letters from the South Seas. He died in 1903, in debt and in pain. There was no eulogy or flowers at his death. At least he had the guts to try to do what he really wanted. There's a monument to him in Tahiti now which tourists go and visit. I believe it's at his gravesite. Recently, there was another guy, Charles McPhee, as portrayed in the documentary movie Velvet Dreams, about this guy who didn't want to live in the capitalist world, as he called it, so he went to the South Sea Islands, painted beautiful semi-naked women on velvet, and became a celebrity in the world of velvet nudes. When Gauguin left the house he shared with Van Gogh went off the deep end. I guess he hated being alone, which fueled his madness. After his ear-cutting episode, he was committed to a sanatorium for a while where he continued to paint, then he got restless and left to live at an inn. His brother Theo's wife had a baby, so Theo wrote to tell Vincent about it and told him how tough it would be to support his family as well as him. This hit Vincent hard, who, as far as anyone knows, painted over 900 pictures and sold just one painting in his lifetime, Red Vineyard. He felt he was a burden on his brother and made his first suicide attempt, which failed. He was discouraged to have his creative vision rejected by the world. He lived a beautiful, short, tragic life as immortalized in the song by Don McLean, "Vincent, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you." He was the epitome of an original trying to purge what he feels inside, giving up all the fruits of a material world to pursue his visions. Then when he wasn't able to support himself through his art, he let it get to him and crashed, which is the story of many creative types. Inspiration is lost, the flame is gone, they feel betrayed as misunderstood artists by a world that doesn't acknowledge their efforts, so they off themselves. But if they were a bit more rational, many could make it through simply by learning to be more temperate, accepting life as finite time and choosing to honor it regardless. Van Gogh is a martyr of the human soul, which is probably why so many people are attracted to him as an historic figure, because he represents something in all of us which most of us aren't willing to sacrifice ourselves for. Some creative types have enough money to live comfortably, but they off themselves when they get bored with life. They feel they've gone as far as they can go in the exploration of their soul/essences, aka the soul, so there's nothing left anymore to keep them inspired, and they rationalize that it's time to move on to the next plane of existence. Many middle-aged creative types have done this or just died naturally at their young ages after a flurry of creative activity. Consider F. Scott Fitzgerald, Edgar Allan Poe, Soren Kierkegaard, or Oscar Wilde, and a Japanese writer I read about who committed harikari after he got bored with life at 47. These people have gotten it all out of their systems, whatever it is they feel they were sent here to do, and after that, it's over, they can rest in peace, and many do, either killing themselves or dying accidentally on purpose by getting sick in some way. They're telling their soul/essence they want to die, and it returns the favor by obliging them with an illness that kills them. Consider the quote by Goethe to Johann Eckermann, March 11, 1828. Mozart died in his 36th year. Raphael at the same age. Byron only a little older. But all these had perfectly fulfilled their missions, and it was time for them to depart, that other people might still have something to do in a world made to last a long while. Creative types feel too much, which is why they're so moody or manic depressive, take your pick of terms. If Van Gogh could have made a living from his paintings and not be dependent on his brother Theo, he might have been alright, but he couldn't compromise his creativity, so he ended up killing himself rather than give in to working a dull job in order to support himself. This is how extreme creative types think. If we can't be ourselves, life isn't really worth it. I'll refer to Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Van Gogh had no choice as to the way he lived. He had to follow the song of his soul, and when it didn't pan out materially, he still had to live that way, even though it led to such discouragement that he started going mad, cut his ear off for the love of a prostitute who he thought was his girlfriend, but to her he was just another guy. In the movie Lust for Life, he stabbed himself. In the movie Vincent and Me, about him and his brother Theo, he shot himself after painting the classic picture in the noonday sun. In a book I read, he shot himself. Normal people have a hard time finding their souls and getting inspired. The curse of a creative person's life is that they have no choice but to live by soul regardless of outcome. Many creative types throughout history lived and died for what they believed in, which made life very tough for a lot of them. You have to eat and want to live in comfort, but at the same time, if you can't be true to yourself, life has no real meaning beyond transient glitter. But a wise person who has an opportunity to get manufactured as a pop star would milk his or her gimmick while the going was good. Then when the public moves on to the next fresh new flavor of the month, they'd have the money to do whatever they wanted to do for the rest of their lives. Life for the majority of creatively inspired original people who want to stay pure and unpolluted by commercial exploitation is still that of the starving artist. It's part of the process to explore the dark side of life, poverty, discouragement, anger, and other painful things, such that you come face to face with your truest, deepest soul and express it in your own way, like the blues created out of the pain of life, or anything great, which is ultimately all about adversity and the triumph to overcome it. There have been many like our inventors, explorers, artists, philosophers, thinkers, Plato with his philosopher king concept, Socrates who said know thyself, Shakespeare with his famous quote to thine own self be true, and the list goes on, all people with restless spirits that made them want to reach for something different and paid the price, but did it anyway because they had to be themselves no matter what. If you're a creative free spirit, be ready for a lot of indifference and outright hate to whatever it is that you might try to do in your own unique way to offer to the world, because you're an individual, you're not motivated by the things the typical generic people have bought into. Free spirits are often perceived as weird or offbeat by the normals around them because they're not strongly motivated by money, things, or food like everybody else. It's often too mundane for you to feel any inspiration around you, so much of your journey will have to be alone. Creative people live for inspiration. When this is destroyed by a constant beating from the world, many go wacko. I'm warning you upfront to find peace in your soul first before you go out to set the world on fire with your incredible, unique talents, because the world will laugh at you and spit you out. It goes like the old song says. Can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. Van Gogh Museum.nl. The extreme creative type. No artist is pleased, there is only a queer divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the other. Martha Graham, in Agnes de Mille, Dance to the Piper, 1952. True art is to do something to try to make others feel as intensely as you feel. The easiest way to know you're an extreme artist, stuck on your talent, passion, cravings, or whatever you want to call it, is if there's an urgency to your work, or you're intensely religious about those few particular soulful pursuits you do, such that you feel you'll die inside or get severely depressed if you're prevented from doing them. It's both a curse and a blessing at the same time. It's good in the way that you're never bored, always inspired, but it's bad in the way that you're stuck on it. You sacrifice a lot of things to stay true to yourself, particularly the time you spend with the people in your life, because you're so obsessed with your particular soulful pursuit. Some creative types get rich within the creative realm of the real world, others don't and get discouraged seeking solace in booze and drugs, since creative types are extremist for experience anyway, or they may off themselves, as many do, because the inspired soul is all that matters, and once it's gone for one reason or another, their raison d'etre is lost, so they check out as a logical conclusion because their business is done on planet Earth. They've gone as far as they could go and there's nothing else left to do. Surveys on creative people show that many die by middle age after a flurry of creative activity, as if they've expended themselves fully and are now ready to rest. Extremely creative people have lots of issues, one of which is the tug between societal norms and the visions of the lone artist to hold onto his individual identity and express himself. Some creative types are obsessed, they can't help what they do, they can't rest on their laurels. They have to always be either writing, painting, creating new songs, on the road playing gigs or whatever. This is when it can get detrimental in life, because many creative people are just too damn intense for their own good, always trying to fill themselves up by creating something or giving of themselves to the world. Their personal relationships suffer tremendously because they give in to their creativity over love. I read that Isaac Asimov, the famous science and sci-fi writer, was so hooked on writing that even after he got sick and knew he was going to die, he spent the last few months of his life feverishly writing away. The classic artist's dilemma is that they only love their art, and even though they strive to earn their keep through their creative pursuits, many don't. People need money to pay bills and need to justify their existences with tangible results, hence, the intense need to be recognized for your work. Although many won't be recognized simply because the demand for their product isn't there, there's intense competition, or they just don't get the breaks. However, these extreme creative types can't give in to a regular life. They'd rather live in poverty and do what they love rather than sell their souls by exchanging their time for a regular job which they perceive as a death sentence. This is the price you might pay for being true to yourself. Another big issue that many creative types have is the cycles of life. Because they're intense by nature, they go way up then crash for a while. Many creative types live a life that some would call manic depression, while others would call simply living out the extremes of all your moods when they come. Because I naturally want the extremes of my experiences, to get higher than high and lower than low, I often supplement my moods via drugs and or alcohol, because they help give me the intensity of experience I need to feel I'm getting some use out of this thing I call my life. This is normal for a lot of creative people simply because it's the way they are, always searching for the euphoria that frees them from the mundanity of the human condition for a while, or searching their depths to see who they really are on a primal level. It's all about feeling free through creative work and mind-altering substances. The creative person lives to free his soul, to get it out somehow in a meaningful, passionate, intense, frenzied way. This creates the good feelings and euphoria about life. Then when they get down, they generally take it way harder than the average person because they brood and analyze it so intensely, creating a worst-case scenario in their minds which feels so bleak such that in one instant of depression and alcohol, it could be all over. While many creative types burn out and die at a young age, many evolve to reach a point where they accept themselves, move into a calmer phase of creative expression. Unlike the passionate, hot creative fires of youth and otherwise live decent, happy lives. Many creative people simply can't handle the future prospect of a life working a dull job to pay bills and choose death rather than deal with it. Many creative types are too sensitive and live all the burdens of the world within themselves, hence, the reason why they're perceived as moody. That's the curse or the blessing, take it whichever way you want. The journey to freedom. When I am, as it were, completely myself, entirely alone, and of good cheer, it is on such occasions that my ideas flow best and most abundantly. Whence and how they come, I know not, nor can I force them. Those ideas that please me I retain in memory and am accustomed, as I have been told, to hum them to myself. If it continues in this way, it soon occurs to me how I may turn this or that morsel to account, so as to make a good dish of it, that is to say, agreeably to the rules of counterpoint, to the peculiarities of the various instruments, etc. All this fires my soul. My subject enlarges itself, becomes methodized and defined, and the whole, though it be long, stands almost complete and finished in my mind so that I can survey it, like a picture, at a glance. Nor do I hear in my imagination the parts successively, but I hear them, as it were, all at once, gleich alles zusammen. What has thus been produced I do not easily forget, and this is perhaps the best gift I have my divine Maker to thank for. Amadeus Mozart, from his letters. Come to the edge, he said. They said, we are afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them and they flew. Guillaume Apollinaire. Of all the things I ever encountered as a young man, only a few ever felt right for me, like the novel Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach, richardbach.com, Siddhartha and Damien by Hermann Hesse, the movie and novel The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, the song The Spirit of Man by Krista Berg and B by Neil Diamond. The book and PBS TV series The Power of the Myth by Joseph Campbell, pbs.org, reduced all of human mythology down into a common journey, the hero's journey, a process of self-exploration and self-discovery. There is always a point of adversity as the phoenix is slain and cut to pieces, but then has the wherewithal to rise from the ashes and reclaim the true power of the soul. The universal quest of man is to live for soul and minimize everything else, to finally realize that the stuff the world sold you on about being successful and cool is all an illusion. The only thing that really matters is what you feel in your soul. I believe a creative soul is something you're born with but must work at in order to release. The greatest sin is to let it die inside while you work a dull job, then water your lawn on the weekend and realize this is it. Life is like a comfortable caged rat being manipulated by forces you let control you. The 1973 book Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach had a statement something like they were being themselves perfectly without self-consciousness, doing what they were created for, flying, in their cases to soar to their highest heights as best as they could, happy for being who they were. I think of Da Vinci, Edison, and all those others who live lives exploring what they want, chasing their creative and intellectual whims, many of which don't yield a positive, practical result for the real world, but so what, they're living their journey, doing what they see fit at the time, and sooner or later some of them come up with great things for humanity, but for the ones that don't, so what, they're living their lives on their own terms, making use of themselves to themselves every day. This is the greatest, most enlightened way to live. The free time to live your life unfettered the way you really want is your most valuable commodity. The only problem is money. Find a way to earn it by doing something that you like to do that can help people. At times when you're young, You don't know who you are but just have to keep going in the direction you feel is right and working at what you feel inside. Keep exploring your life. If you live like this, you can't go wrong no matter what happens. Sooner or later, you reach points of enlightenment if you're willing to pay the price of introspection and the pursuit of your true self through taking your inspired soulful pursuits as far as you can. The pursuit of aesthetics is basically to recognize the beauty inside and live to create it on the outside. It's about living for the creative, intense, transcendent parts of yourself. To some people, it's all-encompassing. It means everything to pursue their own conception of beauty, soul individualism, and mysticism. The psychobablists like to call it a narcissistic personality disorder. To real individuals, it's the only way to live, free and pure. In order to really get the most out of your life, you have to throw caution to the wind at least once and do something really tough and challenging alone. This is the true test of life. Live your life your own way. I believe that the only life worth living is to find your God-given talents and pursue them with passion. That's what God wants, every person to contribute their particular, unique beauty to the symphony of the world. It's really all about spirits on high, run in as much as you can to become the person you were born to be regardless of the mundanity of the world around you. Ask yourself the following questions to help determine what your true identity is. Were you happy as a kid, living by your own whims and inspiration? Have you ever thought your own thoughts and did your own thing, content within yourself? Have you ever felt peaceful in your own space, unfazed by the world around you? Do you live with a sense of ease and possibility? Do you explore your life for the experience that it is not giving a damn about anything else, even practical, pragmatic things at times? Do you look for adventure, stimulation, and excitement regardless of what it is? Do you try to define truth, beauty, and perfection, then try to create something beautiful and unique that has inspirational, worthwhile value? Do you trust yourself over and above everything else on the planet? Do you consider learning to be a lifelong process? Do you have an intrinsic thirst for knowledge? Do you feel that your job or your major in school is not your true calling? What do you really care about? What are you really interested in? Do you believe you have the potential within your life to do whatever you want, or are you looking out there for answers and inspiration? Do you feel inspired most days? What do you think of the capitalist lifestyle? Do you feel inadequate because you don't have all the stuff and capitalist success you want? Do you feel a gnawing sense of emptiness inside that you're not living the way your life should be lived? Do you follow your own standard rather than some other agenda? Do you release your natural energy all the time? Chapter 4. Everyone wants to be part of a community of kindred spirits. Find your own kind of people. Within the realm of philosophical thought, Ayn Rand, AynRand.org, laissezfaire-books.com, symbolizes the ideology called objectivism, VIX.com. Objectivism, an attitude to life made up of 5 factors: self-contemplation, self-creation, rationality, atheism, happiness. This is pro-free individual like her novel and movie The Fountainhead, where Gary Cooper blew up the buildings he designed rather than let the bureaucrats change them. In the introduction to The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, she quotes from Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, saying the noble soul has reverence for itself, plato.stanford.edu/entries/Nietzsche. You need reverence for your life, to feel as though you have a great sacred mission or destiny, even if it is a fantasy. It's still the best way to live. Just don't openly act superior to others. Have a healthy dose of love for yourself. It makes you a better citizen for everybody. Man's ego/soul is the fountainhead of human progress, therefore evolution. Self-interest is good because what noble souls truly feel inside is a natural desire to release all their talents in all their splendor onto the world to get what they want out of this life. And in our capitalist world, this means working your butt off to give people what they want, help, inspire, or amuse them in some way, so you can get what you want to live for the ultimate purpose, which Rand described as living for the glory of life in all its passion, beauty, and sensations, always moving Forward to create transcendence, never looking back much except for the occasional trip down memory lane for old time's sake, which makes you feel good too. To live for the glory of life is to actively seek out a glorious lifestyle for yourself, to become the ideal person you want to be, to create personal happiness each and every day, and know that somewhere, somehow, sometime, somebody else wants it too, a soulmate that you can love and share your glory with, and other people, kindred spirits like you, who you can share your life with in an easygoing manner, just like in her novel Atlas Shrugged, where some of the enlightened people got together to reject the larger capitalist, conformist society to live for themselves as a bunch of friends in their own little utopia, a place called Galt's Gulch. It rarely happens in real life, but this is really the goal, to end up in some sweet place with like-minded cool people like yourself, grooving to life, each of you with enough money to enjoy your lives. Real life is hard work, tedium, the never-ending quest for money, so the goal is to make enough to be financially free, then find an Eden someplace where there are other cool people hanging out enjoying life like you with the same attitudes. Ayn Rand had a thing about what she called the parasites of the world, all the deadheads out there either collecting welfare, sponging off somebody else, or not contributing much beyond working a dull job, then watching TV and eating junk food. You either have a primal drive to live for the glory of life, or you're a deadhead. They fit into two groups, either bullies or victims. Bullies are trying to release the negativity they feel within by exploiting others to get what they can for themselves any way they can without regard for the sanctity of life. Victims are whimpering pussies who simply accept life as is, chew their cud, watch TV, play bingo, and think how pathetic their lives are, often blaming them on things beyond their control like the government, the system, rich people, a poor childhood, etc. The world is abundant. There's plenty for everyone if your effort is true. Cooperation is better than competition. Victories always belittle someone else. Competition with others is the wrong way to live. Competition with yourself is great. God's law says to love everybody, but objectivist law says you only love and respect people who respect themselves and are actively trying to do something worthy with their lives beyond just paying their way by working a dull job somewhere. You can be pleasant to anyone you want face to face, but your true kindred spirits, true friends, will be far and few between. Deal with the real world to get your routine tasks done, but live in that inspired headspace as much as you can. Truly enlightened people know that other enlightened people want inspiration just like they do, so if you can surround yourself with a community of enlightened people all trying to live a great life respecting each other for their individual differences, you'll be one of the few lucky ones who gets to live a glorious life. People want to be with people who think like them. A true community is opening up your heart, enjoying the company of others without pretense, accepting people as they are. Hermann Hesse wrote a story called Narcissus and Goldmine, which was basically a commentary on society about two monks, with Narcissus as the symbolic stern, disciplinary, moralistic, corny rigid father figure, and Goldmine, the son, the free-spirited, romantic dreamer living in a world of his own creation that didn't fit into the conformist world nor the set plans for his life. Hesse portrayed two people which are two incomplete parts of a whole being. The hippies of the 60s were dreamy and romantic in opposing a repressive conformist society, but they essentially had no direction or focus. They rebelled but didn't have the guts, discipline, intelligence, structure, order, nor the vision to go out and create their own version of utopia. There are plenty of aimless hedonists, nonconformists, and misfits around just living for the next experience. In fact, most of the youth who fancy themselves as cool people are like this. All of us have an Eden inside where all is right and beautiful, but most of us just relegate it to our fantasies. We don't bother to try to make it real in real life. Throughout history, many oppressed people have tried to seek out their own promised land where they could express themselves freely and live in peace and prosperity with like-minded people, all the way from the Jews in the early days looking for the promised land after the exodus from Egyptian rule, to the religious groups during the Reformation, to Jack Kerouac, on the road, with his beatnik crowd, to the hippies of the 60s, to some cults today. It's about people trying to find people like themselves to share their lives with each other in peace, freedom, and beauty. Science fiction in general is fraught with stories of little groups of misfits or rebels who cross into the ether to build a world of their own somewhere, usually on another planet, an Eden of sorts. The Star Trek episode about intergalactic misfits from the original series so aptly captured this longing of nonconformists who don't fit into the larger capitalist society or don't particularly want to fit in. Their quest ended when the plants on the planet they went to were poisonous, but Spock said it was noble for them to search for Eden. The Chrysalids by John Wyndham was the same story, people who didn't fit in, first sensing each other through ESP, then finding their own group of like-minded kindred spirits on the edge of the Badlands. People want to live in an Eden with others like themselves. That's what we want, a heaven on earth, living great lives surrounded by people like ourselves who think like us, share our visions and want to enjoy the journey together as friends, kindred spirits, and soulmates without worrying about getting robbed, stabbed, raped or something like that. I heard a term going around called gulching, which is people who get away from the mainstream culture to live in small communities with others like themselves, being as self-sufficient as they can be. The term comes from Galt's Gulch, the hidden mountain community that the heroes of Ayn Rand's novel Atlas Shrugged retreated to when they got tired of injustice and the hypocrisy of the mainstream society. Don't be a rebel without a cause, angry and directionless like the novel by Robert Lindner portrayed. Channel your energies into expressing yourself and developing the free life you imagine for yourself with like-minded people around you. The reward of life is the process, living freely, hopefully with kindred spirited friends to share it with. Life is the magical mystery tour the Beatles described, even though it doesn't seem to be for most working stiffs who wonder where have all the flowers gone, California dreamin' such a long time ago, as they give away the passions of youth for a steady paycheck and a dull job. Most of us who follow the script feel somewhat empty inside because we're not really living a free life true to ourselves. We have to work to earn money, but we don't need a lot of material things. Life is in your soul, the process of living out who you really are unencumbered by the large brainwashing machine around you. Enlightened people want a sense of community, not just to be clones living in a sanitized capitalist middle-class neighborhood where you're brainwashed into fitting a certain mold, starting all the way back to the toys they gave you, the schools they sent you to, your religion, etc. As honest people grow up and mature, they question all this agenda. Many don't feel right about it but have no place to turn, since everywhere they look around them is a saturation of the conformist lifestyle. Occasionally pockets of like-minded people break through, find each other and create good little communities for a while, but they're far and few between. People want this sense of community, a place where they can be themselves freely and share their lives with others like them. This is the mythical Eden we all want, just like Ayn Rand with her novel Atlas Shrugged. The purpose of life is to free yourself from the greater society enough to be yourself freely, but you want to share it with other like-minded people who appreciate the beauty, fun, and adventure of life just as much as you do, kinda like that old song by the New Seekers, A World of Our Own. It's like the Indians of old, modern-day bike gangs, small towns united by a common means of making a living, or churches with tight congregations. They have this sense of community we all want. Being enlightened and free is great, but it's greater if you do it with a community of like-minded kindred spirits. Just like we all want to live in an Eden with like-minded souls, I've found pockets of Eden within modern-day society. Anywhere there's a group of like-minded people mutually enjoying themselves together is a mini Eden for these people for a while. It could be a choir, a sports team, a dance club, a piano bar, a bowling league, a political group with a vision, a group of buddies who sit around, get high and talk about life, a church group, anywhere that like-minded people congregate to share life and feel safe and good with each other. If you go to some of them communities of expatriates from the modern English-speaking countries in places like Jamaica, Mexico, Costa Rica, or Thailand, you often find small groups of people who think like you and are enjoying their lives, as I found when passing through a few of these places. Generally, hippie-type people who paid their dues, worked their time to earn a stash of cash, then cut out of life in the traditional modern world. They have their houses with all the modern conveniences, but life is now simpler, more basic, and primal. LastGasp.com, 800-848-4277, book The Summer of Love, Haight-Ashbury at its highest by Gene Anthony. libertymls.com/gulch. United by generation, community by age. We're all victims of our generation, the era in which we were born. We relate to those people in our age group and almost no one else. The song White Cliffs of Dover captures a romantic, sentimental feeling from the war years when an entire society felt united by the war effort, but it's gone now, the war generation. That'll be us someday, a bunch of old people who had our chance to run and roam, then we'll have to give way to a younger generation and wait to pass on as our good, old days are lost forever, these days right now. Even now, my kindred spirits are the youth of the 80s who had their good times back then. We're a little older, but some of us still remember those days fondly. I don't particularly relate to the youth culture of today. The 60s hippies are still fond of those good, old days, their good old lazy, hazy days of summer, just like the hip-hop rappers now will look back at these days with fondness in 10 or so years. Soon I'll age and end up on the scrap heap of humanity. My original era of good times was the hippie era of the 60s. I was just a kid then, but I went out exploring my hippie roots early, from about the age of 14 on, posing as a 17 to 19-year-old. It was that magical time of youth with other naive, idealistic people like me sharing our lives in fun, the good old days that keep me going on, craving to experience that magical time all over again continuously as I move on in the years. But the world is now much too violent, the innocence is gone. People can't go out and live that hippie lifestyle anymore en masse, hitchhiking, doing drugs and crashing at people's pads who you don't know, because there are too many predators out there these days. The in crowd of my youth has pretty well gone off into complacency, but I still fantasize about my good old days in the 70s and the 80s. I have a sentimental streak for the carefree years of my youth, but that was then, this is now. I continue on living a good life regardless of what the cultural climate is around me. I'll fight for my youth till the bitter end. I saw a TV documentary series that covered all the decades in the recent past and romanticized them with interviews from those who lived them. The 40s was the big bands and the community of war, the 50s was jazz and capitalism, the 60s was rock and roll and hippies, the 70s was disco and the energy crisis, the 80s was digital pop video, excessive hedonism, wealth, the 90s was the corporatization of everything from pop culture to the definition of coolness, which is where I got off the boat, said to myself that modern day, capitalist society is screwed, better live my own life, figure out what works for me, not what they tell me what works for me. We all remember the most fun times of our lives in a romantic glow. It never goes away. If you're smart, you'll keep it close in your mind, body, and soul till death do you part, and find a few friends who feel those sentiments to share the journey with.